sure?
Sure.
You sure?
Sure.
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 Yeah, man, you sure?
Yes, I am sure. Look at this thing. It's presidential.
What if we get caught, man?
Nobody gets caught in South Africa, man.
That's true.
Now lift. I'm sure.
Don't just be sure. Be sure. King Price Insure. Insurance you can be sure about. Visit kingprice.co.za.
You are tuned in to Fight, Unite, or Flee. And I am Johan Erasmus, and you have no idea who I am. So here to introduce me and my colleague Trevor is filmmaker, former rugby player, former cricket player, former everything, Frans Cronje.
Hello,
Frans,
Johan.
what's going on?
Hello,
Why am I here?
Yeah, by now the audience knows what our new platform is about and what we're trying to do, and we've been very innovative in how we're combining different media together. But the main thing for us is we want to actually connect the audience with the producers like us, and we want to take people on a journey. And in South Africa, our journey is building South Africa from the bottom up. Many people want to say rebuilding South Africa, but no, we're actually building South Africa. Because I don't think we've ever been at a place in South Africa where everybody is happy and everybody feels we're building together. And now we want to build South Africa together. And therefore, I think this program, to fight, unite, or to flee, is such an important one. Because in South Africa, we can either choose to continue to fight with each other, and we have been in a fight for the best part of the last 600 years. Not just black on white, but black on black and white on white, and everybody fighting. And there's a number of people that have, over the decades, united, but more so now. And I'm more excited now about how people are uniting. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of people who have fled from South Africa and are still fleeing. And I know you've got a heart in seeing how many people can stick around in South Africa rather than fleeing. So therefore, I think this program is just so amazing. But since meeting you, Johan, I thought, you're just a very interesting person in that you most probably the worst dominee that I've ever seen. And then for the English-speaking people, a dominee is a pastor at a Dutch Reformed church. Trevor, you know him pretty well. He's most probably the most unlikely dominee I've ever seen. So I think you can expand on that a little bit now. Yep.
In it for the money. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Always wanted to be rich. And decided
to be a pastor
is the way to go.
So I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself now. And then just the same with Trevor. It's just like, since meeting you, Trevor, you're such an interesting person, and the stories that I've heard from you. And the first time I heard you speak for 2 minutes, I thought, I want all my friends to hear Trevor speak. I want all my friends to know Trevor. And I think this is why this program gives us an opportunity for people to get to know the two of you. And then at the same time, I want you to be in conversation with your friends, because you have many interesting friends. And you've got interesting friends from different walks of life, right, left, alles, so it's stuck together. And we are Afrikaans, like me and Johan and you, Koza, and I can't click. I grew up in the Free State. I can speak a little bit of Kikiboa, a little bit, but I can't click. But as Afrikaners, we like droewors, so you must help yourself with biltong and droewors. And I don't know, Trevor, if you know a cook sister, so for our foreign viewers, this is the best food, apart from a braai. This is the best food in Africa. Droewors and biltong and a cook sister.
On this side of eternity, it's the
best.
Well, it's the closest you'll come to heaven and salvation. This, on the other hand, I must say, I think my people let us down a little bit. This is like sugar that has been stored.
Sure.
And it looks a little bit, I don't want to say toiletish, but it is the cook sister. And if you go to Urania, and I'll take you to Urania, because
Explain what is Urania?
If you come with me, then you are allowed in. This is why it's only town, blah, blah, blah. There's a monument of the cook sister over there. So we are so passionate about our Cook sisters that we've made a monument for it.
But maybe let's Trevor, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just a very short couple of minutes for now.
But I wanted to say something about the food. I'm also promising that the next time I'm going to bring a cow, and then we slaughter it here. You laughing?
Yeah, to be true to culture.
like they did slaughtering the cow on the beach in Clifton while I was still in Cape
My
Town.
name is Trevor Ntlhola. I have an African name. My African name is Amafu. Ngumxhosa. Amafu, it means the one who comes with rain. So when I was born, I was given that name. But because of colonization and apartheid, we had to have an English or Western name, pagan name. I have to say that because not a Christian name. And then Trevor is actually a German Welsh name. I was born somewhere downtown Johannesburg, not far from the city center. It's called Josh Gore. It used to be a black spot. By black spot was like it was a black people community there, and then the apartheid removed those people. This was in the 60s, and we were dumped in Soweto. So when we left as a family, I was 2 or 3 years. So the greater part of my life was in Soweto. So I'm originally from Soweto. Yeah. But now I no longer live there. I live 15 k's outside of Soweto.
Yeah, but you're close. I've been to your house. It's almost like
it's closer to Soweto.
And Johan, just tell us. I mean, how can you be such a bad dominee? I mean, it's just like like the most. I don't know. Do they allow you in church?
Look, I think.
Have you been to his church?
Yeah, we've been to his church. Remember, we spoke.
Five people who come there, but they're very loyal. But we stay 5. So, look, my backstory, and especially how it overlaps with Trevor, is that I've always been.
Yeah.
I've got this one story that might be interesting. That is, I was didn't grow up in a racist household necessarily, but I was in primary school and I was walking on this farm and trying to be like a tough guy Afrikaner, because if you're a boer, like to be a farmer, even though I didn't have a farm, I didn't have family who had a farm, there was nothing farm, you wanted to show your farmishness.
I still want to be a boer.
So I'm walking there on the farm, and you're looking for an adventure, and we find these Zulu boys there, and they are stealing wood in wheelbarrows, and we're very excited about this adventure because now we get to fight the Zulus who are stealing wood, and we push them around, and we throw them around and whatever. And
How old were you then?
Nah, I don't know.
12,
Teenager? 12, 11, something like that.
Yeah. And I guess they must be older than you, these guys who were doing this.
No, we were sort of the same age.
Okay.
It was small Zulu boys and small Afrikaner boys, and older. But then we've already eaten a lot of biltong, so we're slightly bigger. But eventually we feel very chuffed about ourselves. We tell the farmer, and the farmer says, "No, man, why would you do that? Those guys asked permission, and why would you do that?" And I just remember that face of that Zulu kid who was just so confused, like what's happening? And I promise you, I'm not trying to be sentimental or emotional, but I can still see his face being so confused, like why? And we just sort of went on with the day, but that night I found myself crying in bed, uncontrollably, like that boy just haunted me, his face. And the Afrikaners made a vow before they fought with the Zulus at the Battle of Blood River, and I made a vow after I fought the Zulus, not far from Blood River, ironically, at the farm. And that was like, I never want to see that face again. Wow. Like, I want to be sort of part of a different journey. Now, I've messed it up so many times since, so please don't think that I'm this wonderful, white guy who's just kissing and hugging black people and they all love me. I've messed up big time. But I think largely I've always wanted the arc of my life to steer towards reconciliation. And this has led me to Trevor, and we've been friends for a long time now. And we've gone across the country with a message of reconciliation. Sometimes we have to facilitate race conflict in schools or in other places. We've done that, but we are passionate about reconciliation. We're passionate about South Africa, and we are both followers of Jesus. So that's very much integrated in our approach.
Yeah. Just the last thing in introducing the program is that you are Afrikaans speaking, I'm Afrikaans speaking. Trevor can speak many languages, but his main language is not English. English is not one of them. But we choose to do the show in English so that we can have the broader audience participate. And we want the audience to participate. We want you to comment, to click, and we want your feedback the whole time. But we also want to share it with the broader public so that they can take the journey with us. And that's why we're not doing the show in Afrikaans or Xhosa or Sotho or Zulu.
It's a beautiful thing, actually, that we all sound a little bit stupid in South Africa. And maybe that's why we are sometimes suspicious of the English-speaking white South Africans, because they
don't sound stupid.
They don't sound stupid. We just sound stupid to them. But we all sound stupid. Yeah, we all mix our tenses and our vocabularies and our is and our r's and our haves and our has's, and
we have a low self-esteem. We compare ourselves with, especially with the Western world. We always want to be there. And
but the point is,
we have to relax.
That's what you're going to get on this show. On this show, you will get bad vocabulary, bad is's and r's. I think it would be mildly comprehensible to an international audience, the way we speak.
But we want to be real.
But we want to be real.
Yeah, so it's just last thing before we take a short break is we want to be real. We want to be authentic.
Yeah. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you can hear more broken, bad English. I'm glad you haven't fled yet, and you are still united with us on Fight, Unite, or Flee. Trevor, maybe there's one particular aspect of your story that I find very interesting, and that is you actually had a first love before you had me as your Afrikaner. So right now I'm sort of your white friend, your token white friend.
The second white friend.
Yeah. But before me, you were friends with the late Adrian Vlok, who was the late minister of law and order in the apartheid era. Now you can imagine.
Very interesting.
A minister of law and order in the apartheid era.
Yeah.
This guy is something else.
Yeah.
And somehow, although you were an activist yourself, you were expelled from seminary, so you had a bit of struggle credentials yourself. Somehow you made friends with this minister, and you guys traveled the country with a message of reconciliation. And you eventually did your PhD on Adrian Vlok. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah. I need to explain, and I'm not apologetic about this, just to explain, to put a context. To be a friend to the late Adrian Vlok, it's extremely politically incorrect. But because of my faith in Jesus Christ, I believe in the message of reconciliation, because reconciliation is very expensive. It's just that in South Africa, reconciliation has been cheapened. And yet at the same time, people believe in reconciliation between them, their spouses, but it's only in the political arena where that word has been dirtied and being cheapened. But from the gospel, it's a concept that is very rich. Someone died. Jesus Christ died. So because of my faith in Christ Jesus, I end up, find myself, it was in this place called George. I was at the airport, and then growing up as a black person, we were not scared of the president or the prime minister but in the 80s when I was at the height of the struggle, which was P.W. Botha. But we were scared of this guy, Vlok. Just his name, we will just
Vlok.
A
very important L.
And then maybe you guys, you can help me how you. For those who didn't know who's Vlok. But for me, at the international level, I would see Vlok as an equivalent of the guy who was equivalent of Himmler, who was working with Hitler.
I was just going to say in the Nazi years.
Maybe you want to say something before I continue?
It must be similar to how the Jews would fear the Nazi leaders and in those years. So I'm at the airport and I see this guy, and this was 2000 and something, 2009 I think. So I couldn't believe, because I've seen this guy on television, I've seen this guy or newspaper. The next thing, here he is in front of me. I need to preface this by saying,
one thing that apartheid or Afrikaners or white people were successful at is that they made us black people to be timid of them, to be afraid of them. And then because of my journey, before I met Flock, I had already walked on this journey of reconciliation without being conscious and being aware that fear, that false fear, that phobia of white people, it disappeared. By the time I met Flock, I couldn't believe. And without thinking, it's a small airport, and then I just walked out without even thinking. I just stood up, and then I went to him, I pounced on him, and then I said to him, I know you. And it was amazing because it's only in retrospect I couldn't believe that Trevor did that, given that you were scared of white people. And then I pounced on him, I said, I know you, I know you, I know you. And it was like it was a very cathartical experience. Like there was a freedom, a release, and then he froze for few minutes, which for a black man I just loved it. To freeze away.
Trevor. The first time you told that story, and I was listening to it, and you said we were so scared of him, and then you saw him, and he froze. The way that you said, and then I realized he's scared of me, and
then I loved it. I said, oh, and then for few seconds I left him freezing, and then after and then I unfroze him, and then he relaxed.
And the next day you started to talk to him.
The next day, yeah. And then one of the things that I loved was that one of the respected and honored icon of this country, Reverend Frans Cronje, whom he had a relationship with Flock.
As a matter of fact, Flock tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So
and then
back in apartheid, that Flock tried to
kill Frans Cronje as head of the council.
The police, yeah.
Is that why Adrian Flock then washed Frans Cronje's feet eventually?
So because of that story, which was very popular among us black people, I said to him, I know God has been working in your heart, in your life. And then he unfroze and he relaxed and we started to talk. And then from that day, we exchanged, we started this journey. It was not my plan, my intentions that we become friends. And then when we started to walk that journey, I knew the political ramification or the implication of that I might be ostracized by black people to be seen as a collaborator.
Because many people were suspicious of his supposed what do you call it? Coming to faith.
The old question of that's always is the repentance real?
Yeah.
And I think the same happens with many public figures when they change. As people want to know, are they sincere? I think it was the same when my brother confessed to this, the match fixing allegations and the things. People wanted to know, is he sincere? And I think you can only when you actually really walk with people and how you became friends and invited him into your home and to me that was
vice versa, and they spoke about people being suspicious. The same with one of the heroes in the Bible, Paul. When he became a Christian, many Christians they didn't believe that is until Barnabas came. So I started this journey with him, and it just happened that time I was a pastor of this white church, and Johan, white people will not allow a black person to be a pastor. You know that, And then when this black person become a pastor in this white church, you become, whoa. And then
you're scaring us again. Like you scared Flock, you were happy about that. Then you wanted to become a pastor. Now I'm going to scare all of them.
So I invited him to our church, and then we'd sit like this, and then I would interview, like we're sitting, and people loved it, and we started to be invited. And then Johan, he facilitated our meeting at the University of Free State. Maybe you want to say something about that.
I want to hear about that facilitate, but one thing I forgot in the introduction with you to our audience is that we are busy building this entire ecosystem of people coming together, not just in South Africa, but around the world, and building our studio in Senekal. But after meeting Trevor, I really felt Trevor should be our spiritual head of everything, and I just remembered now when you're saying you were pastoring the church. That, and I think there's no one really better equipped for me in what we are doing than you to help us be the leader for us. Sorry, Johan, I interrupted you.
When he told me the story about how you guys met, he just said it was so nice because he just saw that this Frans was scared of him. And he just looked at him and he bowed and he submitted.
I said, from the Free State. We are the cheetahs. We're scared of no one.
Okay. Well, enough about Trevor's very dodgy race relations. When we come back, we're going to focus a little bit more on what happened after this Adrian Vlok meeting and, where are we now as a nation?
It's a country.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Trevor and Frans, and we're just trying to set the stage, Trevor and Frans, about why it is necessary to talk about these things, and the journey in South Africa is far from done. And we're excited about using this platform to talk about some of these difficult issues, but also of the adventure that is in South Africa, and to invite some of the friends and the people that we've encountered on our journey in this. But maybe, I think one of the things that we still need to just talk about is the fact that when you and I interact with each other, it's not just on an individual basis that we do it. It's not just my history with you and your history with me that plays a role. It is our collective history that informs us. And one of the big shadows that hang over any conversation of ours is the thing of apartheid.
Yeah.
Now, it's what, 2024, I'm not good at math, so how long is that since 94? I
30 years. Where have you been this year? This whole year has been
30 years.
a celebration of 30 years.
30 years. I thought somebody turned 30.
You see, that's why I still think he's a Blue Bull supporter.
So 30, so it's roughly 30 years of democracy. And we, as whites, have this tendency to look in on you guys and say, come on, man, it's time to get over it. What is this language of apartheid? The irony, however, is that in the early 90s, late 90s, I grew up in a house where we didn't really, maybe we had patronizing relationships with black people, but not hate. The hate were reserved for the Brits, as a matter of fact. So when Diana was on television, my dad would say, no, you switch it off. When the English were playing, even against the All Blacks, I thought, I'm going to support the English. He says, you never support the English.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, we only support two rugby teams, the Springboks and any team playing against England.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that was the language back then. And the irony is, that's 100 years after the fact, and you still have those scars of the Anglo-Boer War, and yet we're very quick to ask you guys to just move along with apartheid. I hope you guys don't take as long as we do, but maybe just tell us a bit more about what apartheid was, or how it informs you today.
Yeah, I think one of the things, at least for me, and I cannot talk for black people, is that it's not up to you as a white person, as an Afrikaner, to decide whether you are racist or not. It's like, for example, if I've put it as a black man, it's not up to me as a black man to convince a black woman that I'm not a chauvinist pig. I can't say to the black woman, see, I am not a chauvinist. They are the ones who must decide because they are the victims. And often I find white people will just wake up one day and say, I'm not a racist. And we would say, but we are the ones who must decide that. So, for example, I grew up, especially after I've been conscientized about our struggle in this country, we treated every white person as a racist until they prove themselves otherwise. The same with you. When you came into my space, because you had, at least from the outside, you had everything that the racists had. You have a white skin, you have a
handsome bull patch.
Yeah, and then you have a body like
a bit of a beard.
And then we had a song, "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer." So you resemble all those things. So for me, it was like, okay, he's one, and then but he wanted to talk with me. I mean, I remember when we met, But as we walked the journey, then I realized, you know what? You shifted from Lokhoa Umlungu to Umuntu.
Explain that.
Yeah, as in Sotho, the word for a white person in Sotho, we say Lokhoa. It's a noun, comes from the verb that say hokwa, like to spit. Say Lekhoa is the one who spits. There are, in fact, some petty people will even go Lekhoa, meaning the one who spits. So Lekhoa is a person who despises, who look down on others. But as I walk the journey with this person, when I introduce him to my mom or to my family, I would say, yes, this is Johan, this is Frans, Mama, but it's not Lekgowa, Kimut, he's a human being. So for me, we often, most of the time, we treated white people with suspicion, that they have an agenda, they don't like us, they have an agenda, they want something out of us. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, so that has been, yeah.
I think the flip side.
You want to ask?
I would just say the flip side of this is that the suspicion is mutual.
Yeah.
Right back at you.
Yeah.
You know, in the sense that.
And that's the problem. Eh?
And that farm murders is sort of the typical thing that really captures white imagination, and the fact that a lot of criminality is associated from a white perspective, that there's this suspicion from both sides. And I'm not necessarily putting it at par with apartheid. I'm just trying to articulate that there's this mutual hurt and pain, and it's very difficult to
Yes, Johan, and that's exactly why I think we need these discussions, is let's talk through the fears. Let's be real. Let's be authentic. Let's not hold back here, but we do it in love. Let's do it in love, because I want to hear your opinion. I just know you are always listening when I share my opinion, so that's part of what I think is important. Let's talk through these things, because a farm murder has huge impact. It doesn't just have impact on that family, it has impact on the whole community when that happens. So yeah, I think that's the one thing that's really, really important in that. Trevor, there's something I think many of my white friends often think, that many black people today, when they look at load shedding or potholes or some of the services that doesn't work in a town like I'm in Sierra-Colin, we're in the process of fixing the town, but there's still some things wrong. Many white people think black people sometimes feel it was better in apartheid because the services then worked.
Yeah.
How can I answer them there? Because I don't share their view, but how do I answer that question?
Yeah, I think the truth is, when people are oppressed and are disparate, they would rather choose something that, in inverted commas, was working. But the truth is, the dispensation that we are in now, compared to during apartheid, is far, far, far better. You know, what is pothole? I'm not trivializing that. But when we compare in the 80s, in the 70s, when blacks' lives were nothing, and then now we come into the new South Africa, people who complain about potholes is people like us, like the Trevor, the black middle class who have cars and all that. You know, I grew up without electricity. And I remember on a 702, one of the national radio stations at least in Gauteng, they're making a research. And then people they told us that they made a research without letting us know as the listeners. And the people who were complaining were white people. This was a research. And they say it was amazing. There was not even one black person who phoned to complain about no electricity. And the reason was that black people who grew up without electricity, and we know it will come, and it will come. So I'm not trivializing or ridiculing that. All I'm trying to say, when you put things in perspective. Another thing that I wanted to say quickly before was that the Afrikaners and the English people, at least let me say white people, they had an agreement in 1910 among themselves against black people. So from 1910 to 1994, I don't know how many years, but it's many years where the white people had to develop. Afrikaners were poor, were living in a shacks at a certain time. They didn't have education. They were like many of us now. But from that time to 1994, they had many of years to develop themselves. Now, black people in 30 years that we had just had, we are expected to do miracles. In a world which was not the same during apartheid, South Africa got a global focus. We had a lot of people from different countries, and the world is globalized more than ever before. So there is a pressure in the black people of this country. We have never had a time as black people in this country where we are on our own. You know, the focus was just on us to fix ourselves. So suddenly, 1994 opened, we had pressure from our local people. By local, I mean African people from different countries. And then at an international level, we had to do miracles. It doesn't justify, it doesn't say it's right to be corrupt or not to fix the country. All I'm just saying, we need to put this thing in context. Because the same thing about white people, they would never say from 1910, when he had that Vereeniging agreement between the English, and 1994, there's a lot of development. You know, apartheid was a machinery that was made to empower economically not black, sorry, of course not black, white people, not only Afrikaners. And then as a matter of fact, you saw yourself as not as Portuguese, not as Afrikaner, not as English, as a white race.
No, actually, you were right the first time. It actually promoted Afrikaners. And many of them were part of a group called Broederbondes who actually only promoted themselves. At the cost of some other white people, you know, so it was even more elitist than only white.
Yeah, Trevor, Frans, I mean, we touched on some deep topics, and now if you start talking about apartheid and we say, okay, well, let's quickly wrap that up and make sure that everybody is happy, that's never going to happen. So it's going to take a whole show to really flesh out what it means to live in South Africa and what it means to try and figure out the legacy of apartheid. And the new South Africa, because it's a very messy place, and unfortunately, and we can unpack this in another episode, is that it's not so easy to just say the one side is completely good, the other side is completely bad. It's very mixed up. And I'm excited to try and explore some of those themes in this.
Yeah, and I think just lastly from my side, and then I'm going to leave you guys to continue to speak with the next few episodes to everybody, is that what's wonderful about South Africa is we can have this conversation and we mention some really touchy stuff, and we don't want to ever get upset when we talk here, and we don't want the audience to get upset either, because we want to engage, and we're doing this on purpose to get to a place where we're actually getting better. And I've just come back from America, I was there for a week. They struggle with the same things. They struggle in Germany with the same things, in Australia and in England. So let's help the rest of the world to solve these things.
I agree. And that's why I'm glad I've got my partner in crime, Trevor Ntlhola. The whole world is struggling with difficult issues, struggling to live in a world where people are different from you. And in South Africa, we've been struggling with that for a long time. And I think there are a lot of lessons that we can share to people across the world. And in that sense, South Africa is still a miracle, in the sense that we are still here and we are still figuring it out. And we love to hear from around the world, actually, different conflicts and how you guys experience these things. And we're very excited to unpack different speakers, different topics on this show in the next few weeks. And also, don't miss our next episode. We're going to speak to Frans Cronje, who was the first white terrorist, the first bomber to be tried in the new South Africa, and his wonderful story of redemption and reconciliation. We'd love to hear from you, so please, please, please comment. That's it from Fight, Unite, or Flee.